From an undisclosed location for reasons of security and insecurity, we present to you tonight MnRTV Live Show. And tonight we've got a great show, a great guest, Scott S. Smith, God Reconsidered. We're going to be talking about him and animals, pets, the souls of pets. Where do they go after they die? And he knows a lot of information about that and a lot more. I mean, his book, God Reconsidered, is very, very good. And you guys should all get it. But without further ado, I introduce to you tonight from the MnRTV, the one and only, the madman from Montreal, the coffee man, Mario McDonald, man. How are you tonight?
Yes. It's very, very, very great to be back on this show once again. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I just finished my last drink of coffee. You know, now I'm just gonna put this anti-Illuminati cup. I'm just gonna put it right here and get on because we've got a hell of a show tonight. This show's been brought to you by the Montreal Anti-Illuminati Task Force, and tonight we're getting Scott Smith tonight on our show. It's gonna be a wonderful, wonderful guest tonight. He's gonna have a lot of information to talk about.
Yes.
So how's been your week? How's it today? I don't know.
What about today?
It's been a hell of a day for me. Anyhow, let's just say Montreal's rocking right now.
Yeah, in the down direction.
Exactly. Okay.
So, shall we commence the show?
Yeah.
All right. So this is me. This is Mario. You won't be seeing me, but you'll be hearing me, at least for the first half an hour before the guest comes on. So I'm going to be switching on over to show you what exactly you want to see and know, just to be informed the right way, not the mainstream way, because we're not like CNN. We give you the right news exactly. So let me switch on over and start with this, our beautiful blog. It's the MnR Productions Mariolaur.blogspot.ca, and right here you just refresh, always refresh before the show starts or later on, and then right there on the side you see that we started in 2006, and just, you know, you could watch all those after you watch the show. And then after that, you know, you can come here and talk in the MnR Hangout in Chatingo, you know. And if you don't see this, reload or refresh, and this shall come here, and you click there, and you see us live, or you see the recorded show. But and this always appeals everywhere, our blog. So you people out there, you can, you know, get in, you can participate. That's what we want. We want to see you people out there participate. So now we're going to get to the popular pictures of the week that have been posted both on Conspiracy Talks on Google Plus and on Facebook. And here we go.
Okay. When they say I don't believe in God, but yet believe in a satanic Illuminati, it's a cause to laugh. They don't believe in God, but yet they believe in satanic Illuminati. What does satanic come from? Where does it come from? You know, I mean, if there's Satan, there's got to be a God. What, they only believe that Satan created the universe? Ridiculous.
They're just as bad as the satanic Illuminati if they don't believe in God, right?
Right.
I mean, there's always a good and there's always a bad.
Yin and yang, yin yang. Exactly. Okay.
Suivant, next.
Next picture's right there. What does Coca-Cola's Dasani bottled water have in common with death by lethal injection? The third latest ingredient in Dasani is potassium chloride. If you are to be put to death, first you get a barbiturate, then a paralytic agent, and then the chemical to stop your heart. What a coincidence. You guessed it, potassium chloride. Ooh, I don't know. Yeah, and it's bottled by the Coca-Cola.
And they even put fluoride in there. Usalazy fluoride. That's what they put in here. That don't drink
Exactly.
bottled water. It's all chemicals. That drink from the tap, or get water without fluoride, which is very, very hard to get. Suivant next. Oh yeah, que
Ah,
Dios.
yes. Just crisis actors for another false flag. Yeah, time to get ready for that again, perhaps in Houston. And I do hope nothing happens.
No, as long as everything is goodly, you know, nothing badly happens. But we know what they're up to. False flags, they're everywhere. These false flags. Suivant next.
There are billions of people in the world who can end the new world order in an instant, yet they are too scared, apathetic, and addicted to their slavery for no reason. Imagine if billions of people woke up, went after the Rothschild and all the 13 families, what would happen? That'd be amazing.
Yeah, but that's why we're here to do this show, to remind people that the money that they're working is made of thin air, and you got to start waking up and saying, we demand that we have real money backed by silver. But it's not
Exactly.
happening. Suivant next.
If you can poke royalty on the chest, they'll let you bitch. You may be a Rothschild. But look at him. He pokes royalty on his chest, probably telling him, you better dare do something. You didn't do it. Why didn't you do it? Or you did it all wrong.
It's almost like the
Prince,
Rothschild is Prince Charles and all this royal family. There's probably like the boss, because only a boss can do this to an employer.
exactly. So the Rothschild is his boss, probably warning him, you better do it right or else.
Suivant next. Speaking of wicked
I'd love
people,
to go poke my hand to Rothschild. The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. All these wicked men right there, all controlled, manipulated by the higher ups of the Illuminati, and these people are manipulated by fallen angels and Satan himself.
well, there's
Look at the
Satan.
top
Look,
tier.
see Satan right there.
Yeah, and the all-seeing eye, and there's Rothschild and all the members of the 13.
Suivant next.
The media doesn't want you to know that Gucci Mane was about to buy NBC and expose government corruption right before the Illuminati imprisoned him and released a clone. Stay woke.
You didn't
They're
know
known to
that.
do that.
Nobody knew that.
No, but they're known to do that, to put clones of people.
Yeah, for sure.
We live in a country that creates its own money, yet still can't afford to feed the homeless or fund education. I know. Look at the money. Look at that. How they create it. Just sheets of paper.
Yeah. Not backed by silver.
No.
Suivant next.
Mind blowing. No matter how paranoid or conspiracy minded you are, what the government is actually doing is worse than you imagine. William Blum, former U.S. State Department employee. Well, we have a pretty good idea what they're doing. We've been saying it for 4 years, but
But
people out there don't know.
people out there don't care. They're sheeple, unfortunately. Suivant next.
We just created worthless electronic money out of nothing. Then we lend it out and charge interest on it. Then we make them give us their houses and real wealth when they cannot pay, and they all laugh. Yeah, continue laughing.
They're
Your time,
laughing at us.
your time will be up.
But the answer to that is right here.
This prevents brainwashing. Yet, if we take that, we're not allowed to do it. Honestly, legalize it. And I don't
But
know if
that
they'll
is
legalize it.
why. But that is why they don't want it to be legalized. Because it prevents us from being brainwashed, and they want us to be brainwashed. It's like a vicious circle, right?
Yeah. And the next one right there. When the polls say Hillary's winning, but you never met a legitimate Hillary supporter in real life. Yeah, I don't meet any really. I haven't really met one.
You know why? because presidents, governments, they're not elected, they're selected. That's why. That's the answer for the
Yeah.
So those are the famous, popular pictures of the week that everybody loves on both here, the Conspiracy Talk on Google Plus and Facebook. And this group just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger by the day, right there.
I know. Look, there's a new person that wants to join the group.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a spammer or a government paid troll that wants to just, cover everything up and make us look ridiculous.
Which I hope not. Exactly. Hopefully not. They won't do that.
And right here, if you want to watch the latest show or last week's show, it's always pinned somewhere up there, up north. And you just click here and it's right there. And, you can enjoy yield. And that's, be nice if you're going to come on here, right there.
Yeah, don't put spam or porn or anything like that because it gets deleted anyhow. Even if we're not on, it gets reported. So yeah, and there's a triangle right there going on, and if you have any questions for our guest, just please ask. Just write it down, and we'll ask our guest Scott Smith, who's coming on at 8:15 p.m. tonight.
Yeah, I wonder why they don't put stevia in Coke and all that. Why don't they put stevia? Because that's natural. That won't kill you. So they're gonna put stuff in there that's no good for you because they don't care about people. They don't care. All right. So now shall we start the news of the week?
Yeah, Brexit's victory over the EU globalists.
All right.
The global establishment has been at war against the people for decades. At war. Centuries of scheming produced the EU centralization monster. The overwhelming deceit and destruction caused by the ruling class has finally received a setback in a plebiscite under the European Union. The New World Order of collectivists, born in satanic ideologies, implemented by international finance, imposed through the carnage of continuous wars and administered under an abusive bureaucracy system of non-elected technocratic elites, has suffered the repudiation of British men and women who want to restore England to a sovereign nation under the principles of Magna Carta. Well,
I think that's all planned.
I think, yeah, it's all planned to collapse everything and bring in a 10-nation, world nation government system that has been predicted in the Bible, the 10 kings. And then these 10 kings shall rule the world and one day give their power to the Antichrist. This is part of the New World Order. I mean, then you have Alex Jones saying that the New World Order is being defeated because of this. No, it's not. He's just promoting false stuff. I mean, I used to like Alex, but now it's just gone to the point where he's just like promoting the wrong ideas.
I still believe this is all part of the plan, and we know the end games.
Exactly.
But things are going to get worse before they get better. So shall we move on to the next one, which is also because that's heavy in
the news.
Yes, that's very heavy in the news. So, oh no, hold on. No, that's not a good one right here. Hold on, right here. Yes, right there.
The United States of Europe, Germany, and France has a plan to create a super state. Look at this. The United States of Europe. If you believe the Brexit vote is going to kill the idea of the United States of Europe, you might want to think again. In fact, it appears that the decision by the British people to leave the European Union is only going to accelerate the process of creating a EU superstate. As you will see below, one of the largest newspapers in the UK reporting that the foreign minister of France and Germany have drafted a blueprint, effectively dual individual member states. So even though men like George Soros are warning that the eventual dissolution of the European Union is practically irreversible after the Brexit vote, the truth is that the globalists are not about to give up easily. For a long time, advocates of increased European integration have dreamed of going all the way and creating a true United States of Europe. But Britain has always one of the stumbling blocks that's.
So anyways, that's all for globalization. And Diaz, now we'll go into Diaz, the Three Amigo, the summit. You know,
All right. Yeah. Canada to lift visa for Mexican visitors in deal before Three Amigos summit. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says Canada is dropping its visa requirements for Mexican visitors as of December 2016, while Mexico has agreed to open its markets to Canadian beef. I read that. I heard that in the news yesterday.
yeah, it's so globalized, right?
Yeah, it's to make more money. It's to bring everybody together. So they're not stupid, you know. That we might think we have one plan. We might think we have 2 steps ahead, but actually the Illuminati are like 10 steps ahead, and have counter moves for just about everything that we do.
So
And that's
what happened to England right there? This right there, it's part of their plan. What they did in England is part of their plan too, right?
That's right. Oh yeah, definitely. I agree.
All right. So now, I don't know. Wait a minute. No, because we never did get to talk about Diaz. X-Men Apocalypse, right? Hold on. Here we go, right there. X-Men Apocalypse. Now, what did you make of this movie?
I made a lot of stuff. It made a lot of sense. I mean, they went back in the past of the civilizations, and there was a villain there that looked like he was like a Nephilim who was trying to come back into the future because his world's not like it used to be. And I firmly believe that this guy was Nimrod, and it's as if as a sign of Nimrod coming back in the end times, being some sort of antichrist, and he wants to rule.
And you know what
And there's transhumanism in there. What?
Yeah, you know, that's it. The good point is Nimrod. Then after that, it's what was his name? Apocalypse.
Yeah, Apocalypse. Yeah, the evil Apocalypse. Yeah.
He want to live forever, and I believe all the mutants, they were all he was communicating with all the mutants, kind of like the mark of the beast, right? Remember
Exactly.
that?
Yes.
And he want to control them all, kind of like the mark of the beast. So that when I saw that movie, I was like, man, this is so much like that. What are they trying to tell us?
It's hidden. It's in hidden messages. What you see on the movies is really reality, and they want to show what they can do, but they can't. They put it in plain sight for people to try and figure out.
And the mark of the beast is also supposed to mutate. We're supposed to turn into mutants after that. No, it's like it's gonna mutate us.
Yes, exactly. So that's what I'm thinking. That he was that. He was just a mutant. And Apocalypse also had the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse right there.
Now there's something else that's popping up. A new movie. Have you heard of this? The big friendly giant, I think it's called.
I've heard of it. Yeah. A girl named Sophie encounters the big friendly giant who, despite his intimidating appearance, turns out to be a kind-hearted soul who is considered an outcast by the other giants because, unlike them, he refuses to eat children.
Look at that, eh? Right in your face to everybody.
I know.
Look who directed. Steven Spielberg. Look at that.
And he knows a lot about what's going on in the world of UFOs and aliens, everything.
But these giants, they start off friendly, but then they become, they want to eat. Now, and there's something I want to point out here before I go to the next one. There's something else I want to point out here about sharks. Now you're going to say, what is he bringing up on sharks? Wait, let me just see if I could make it a little bit bigger. Yes, the regeneration of teeth from sharks.
A shark's teeth are essentially another form of tentacle. Sharks are born with a full mouth of teeth, lined in multiple rows. Sharks continuously lose and regrow their teeth throughout their lives. Sharks are predators with quick, aggressive eating habits, and they constantly break and lose teeth. So they regrow these teeth so that they can continue to be effective hunters. In a single lifetime, a shark can lose and regrow 30,000 teeth. And how come we can't?
Hold on. The thing is those giants, or the new giants, or the new beings, their DNA is going to be manipulated, right? They're probably going to insert the DNA from a shark into humans. We'll regrow our teeth, but then you know what's going to come with that, right? Whatever. Well, sharks, you fall in the water, cut yourself, and the sharks are all going to come towards you because they sense blood. They love blood. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
That's why
And
the giants became cannibals, because they love blood.
yeah, exactly. I
And
know.
the giants had a big set of teeth. No, didn't they have like lots of teeth, those giants back then?
Yes, they did. They had, I think 3 sets or something like that. And the thing is, with these teeth, is that if this happened now, they put dentists out of business. But it sucks that we can't grow back our teeth when we lose it.
But we eventually can if they change our DNA. But
Yeah, but I think the Anunnaki changed our DNA. We had 10 strands, and now they gave us 2 strands only. So they really messed us up. I mean, our minds, it's been shut down. We can't lift the veil into other dimensions because it's been shut down. Yeah, pretty interesting.
That's my take on the giants and all that. That's what I think of sharks. You know, it's crazy what I came up with there. Oh, look what's here, song.
What is CERN doing? Bizarre new image of bizarre cloud formations above the CERN Large Hadron Collider could be shock-proof. The world's biggest experiment is about to tear open a portal to another dimension. And there it is. This is if you are inclined to believe the latest conspiracy theories surrounding the monster machine. A video claims 2 images showing cloud and light over the LHC at Geneva over the French-Swiss border were taken on June 24th, the same day CERN scientists began a new awake experiment to change the way it smashes particles together. The film, entitled "What Portals Did CERN Learn Now? Open Now? Strange Clouds Hover Above the LHC," was made by Freedom Fighter to a religious conspiracy theory channel on YouTube, and raises major concerns about what CERN is being used for. The narrator of the video of CERN, otherwise known as the European Organization for Nuclear Research, claims that 2 images have been forensically researched and have been found to be genuine and not edited. Look at the formation right there. Did the LHC create a portal, or was this just a thunderstorm?
That's interesting.
It makes you wonder. Very interesting.
All right, and now we're going to jump right into
the next information.
Meaning UFOs, meaning 3-ish is not too far away.
Man filmed UFO and blamed NASA for lying. Ooh, flying saucer type UFO undercover by ISO maps of Texas. The UFO that was discovered via iOS maps is massive. It's another alien sighting among so many that have taken place since the beginning of 2016. Our alien neighbors may be trying desperately to make contact with us. NASA and government, however, might have other plans. It is getting more challenging for them to cover up these sightings on Earth and in space. Believers, conspiracy theorists, and UFO hunters are all taking to the internet to decode the NASA lies. New YouTube footage. The recent footage posted by UFO channel Third Phase of Moon shows a large flying saucer, typical type spacecraft, flying over Texas. Third Phase of Moon is dedicated to all things alien, and they have been quite a following recently. This may be due to the growing amounts of UFO sightings happening around the world and beyond. The image was captured via iOS maps, but there have been no news from NASA. Is this image real, or is it another hoax among the many? You have to decide for yourself. The YouTube video has 40 minutes of UFO coverage, footage, and community for you to decipher. NASA is no stranger to cover-ups, and neither is the U.S. government. Since the famed Roswell crash, the government has been accused of harnessing alien technology for military use, hiding alien deep within Area 51, adding to the long growing list of conspiracy theories. In fact, a recent image posted by NASA is just the latest of cover-ups. A UFO hunter found alien structure on Mars after enlarging an extraordinary small image posted by NASA. But why not come out of the space closet? NASA has openly said that Jupiter, Moon, Europa may contain living organisms. They also noted Europa has a very similar atmosphere to Earth. Europa missions to find aliens. They found them. They're gonna go find. One day they're just gonna announce that they found them.
Yeah.
And or the motherships will come down. But if they announce on TV, that's gonna be like the biggest broadcast ever. That's gonna make anything on the news seem like small potatoes. And you know how the media goes in a frenzy of all kinds of stuff.
Like the Subban trade, that would have been nothing today.
Yeah, because now it's all over Montreal, it's all over the news. But if UFOs appear, or if they say alien life, there's actually alien beings, that's gonna go worldwide viral. I mean, it's gonna break all records, Twitter records and Facebook. That's for sure. I agree with you 100%.
But getting back to Brit Exit and you know what happened in Ottawa between the three amigos, they call them. It's all globalization. It's only going to get more into globalization. They haven't taken the globalist apart. They're just getting closer, and their plans are going to be going on no matter what, right?
It's all part of the 13 to doing this. They break up, they put back. It's all smoke and mirrors, and it's just gonna lead a step closer to the New World Order, finalizing their plans. Not unlike Alex Jones, who says it's a blow. He's just saying that so that people could follow him. Say yes, we've won. We're winning a little bit. Like that, people will follow Alex Jones even more. All right.
No, the time for the break soon.
Yes. Well, yeah, I heard Trish calling, so get Trish on so we can get our guest Scott S. Smith coming on the show at 8:15 to talk about his book, God Reconsidered, and so many other things. All right.
So don't go anywhere, people. Stay right here. Okay, because here she is. Here's Trish.
God Reconsidered, Searching for Truth in the Battle Between Atheism and Religion. Chapter 4 is Order in Nature Due to Higher Intelligence. The Old Testament of the Bible is the foundational document of Western monotheism, and a close study shed light on the nature of God, according to Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. It starts with the two creation stories in Genesis, which appear to have been pasted together, without any concern for consistency. A relative minority of hardcore Christian fundamentalists still cling to the absurd idea that the Bible is inerrant, word for word perfect in its original manuscripts. Even though we do not have them to confirm this, defenders of this position should read Biblical Nonsense by Jason Long. The same believers often insist that the creation was accomplished in 6 days. These fundamentalists are the perfect foil for best-selling books by militant atheists, like Richard Dawkins, The God Delusion, Sam Harris, The End of Faith, and Christopher Hitchens. God is not great. Basing their attacks on a literalist interpretation of the Bible is a cheap shot, says John Hott, a leading expert on the dialogue between science and religion, in God and the New Atheism. Since sophisticated believers in the Abrahamic tradition now embrace the idea of divine guidance, of evolution. But the new breed of atheists likes easy targets, he argues, contrasting their cognitive swagger unfavorably with the great skeptical minds of the 20th century, like Jean-Paul Sartre and Friedrich Nietzsche. David Berlinski, a philosopher who describes himself as a secular Jew and the devil, as delusion. Atheism and its scientific pretensions raises a number of issues about neo-Darwinism. Darwin S theory is the creation myth of our time. He wrote. Science philosopher Mary Midgley put it another way in the title of her book, Evolution as a Religion. It is certainly true that there is not full agreement among scientists on all issues relating to evolution. Prominent biologists who have challenged conventional wisdom include John Sanford of Cornell, who invented the gene gun, Francis Collins, director of the National Institute of Health and author of The Language of God, and Richard Lewontin of Harvard, author of Biology as Ideology, as well as the late Nobel Prize winners in physiology John Eccles, for work on the synapse, Ernst Chain, penicillin, Alexis Carrel, transplants, and George Wald, retina. One could argue that the general consensus among evolutionary biologists is rooted not in Darwin, but in Newtonian science, with its emphasis on a purely material explanation for everything. Yet the so-called intelligent design, ID, theory, popular with evangelical Christians, is really another name for the old creationism, which does challenge the entire idea of evolution and does not offer serious evidence for an intelligent designer. Sam Harris laid out the case against ID and led it to a Christian nation. Over 99% of species are now extinct, and this fact alone appears to rule out intelligent design. When we look at the natural world, we see extraordinary complexity, but we do not see optimal design. We see redundancies, regressions, and unnecessary complications. We see bewildering inefficiencies that result in suffering and death. We see flightless birds and snakes with Elvises. We see species of fish, salamanders, and crustaceans that have non-functional eyes because they continue to evolve in darkness. Our own bodies testify to the whimsy and incompetence of the Creator. Men have a urinary tract that runs directly through the prostate gland, so the prostate tends to swell throughout life. A woman's pelvis has not been intelligently designed as it could have been to assist in the miracle of birth. Consequently, each year hundreds of thousands of women suffer prolonged and obstructed labor that results in a rupture known as an obstetric fistula. Michael Shermer, who heads the Skeptics Society, gives another example in What Darwin Matters. The human eye is built upside down and backwards, requiring photons of light to travel through the cornea, lens, aqueous fluid, blood vessels, ganglion cells, endocrine cells, horizontal cells, and bipolar cells before they reach the light-sensitive rods and cones that transduce the light signal into neural impulses, which are then sent to the visual cortex at the back of the brain for processing into meaningful patterns.
Thank you very much there, Trish. At least your voice came on very good and loud and clear.
Yes, indeed. And we're gonna have a great guest coming on in a couple of minutes, Scott Smith, who'll be talking about God Reconsidered, and he has a lot of information, pretty much information that that's gonna be good, right, Mario?
Yes, it's always great to have a guest on that knows his stuff, right? To
Exactly.
get their opinion, it means a lot to us because everybody's opinion is very important to this MnRTV Live Show.
Exactly. So I can't wait to hear the part about animals having souls and what's his views on that. Because he wrote a book in 1998 called The Soul of Your Pet, Evidence for the Survival of Animals After Death. So that'll be interesting. And also, he has a lot more things to talk about besides pets, but it's one of the topics I want to get into. It's something we haven't covered, so it's good to cover some of that, I think.
Yes, and also people out there, if you have any questions, here's the place to do it. You place it right there, and we're going to try and get to the questions.
I mean, he's also going to be talking about Zacharias Sitchin's work and aliens and reincarnation, just about everything. A lot of information coming on in about 2-3 minutes we've got.
Multiverse, he covers the multiverse. He knows stuff about
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And it's going to be wonderful. Mario, Paulie wants to take out Trish.
For coffee. Why not? I'm sure she knows about the globalist.
Yes. That's gonna be we'll have something to look forward to coming on soon. That's perfect, Lalande. Yeah. So just post up the questions, and Mario will be sure to give them to me like that. We're going to be covering them when it's the question time. It's going to be wonderful to get them. All right. So I'm going to try and get them soon, Mario. So the floor is yours.
The floor is mine. Okay, that's great. As long as you're around, because that's what counts, you know. But you know, I'm not concerned about Britain, you know, leaving Europe, because let's face it, did Britain have the euro? No, they had the pound. You know what that means? They were really never part of Europe. I mean, they still control Europe. That's what I think. I don't know. There's stuff. There's stuff that's missing. The pieces are not all there yet, but one day the pieces will be there.
Hey, Scott. Scott, welcome.
Can you hear me okay?
I hear you perfectly. Welcome to the MnRTV Live Show. It's great to have you on our show tonight.
Okay.
How are you doing? Pardon?
Well, how am I doing? I just got my visa rejected to go to Iran and do a travel story, so I've got to think of a new place to go in the world.
Oh my gosh, that's not such a good idea, is it? Not such a good thing to happen that you got your visa rejected.
Yes, well, it's happened before when I went to Uzbekistan, but we finally cleared it up, and I could think of 3 reasons the Iranians might not want me to be there, but I'm always interested in pushing the boundaries.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what you got to do in life. You got to persevere. You got to keep on going. If there's one obstacle, you go after another one. You know, you have to overcome them all. And then in the end, when things are hard, sometimes when we finally succeed at something, it makes us feel a lot better.
Absolutely. That's the theme of my journalism career, is how people bounce back from adversity.
Exactly. So, Scott, are you able to tell us a bit about yourself?
Well, I have been a journalist since my early 20s. I've been a freelance journalist, and I've had some side careers. And in the last 20 years, I've specialized in interviewing famous people from Stan Lee to Bill Gates and Meg Whitman about how they became successful, kind of the nuts and bolts of it. And it always involves overcoming a lot of adversity. And, you know, we think of somebody like Bill Gates, he's successful, billionaire. But, you know, the only reason I actually talked to him back in 2000 was because the federal government was trying to take Microsoft apart as a monopoly. So there's something to be learned from all these great high achievers. And that's largely the very, very worldly sort of stuff I've written about. And then, and I got a book out about that called Extraordinary People. But I had a break from my 80-hour weeks a couple of years ago. And that's when I decided to write this book about the evidence for the supernatural called God Reconsidered. And I have a website that's dedicated to that. It's got a Facebook forum for people to post questions. And so, you know, a lot of people have said, what the hell are you doing? Literally, you know, writing about something that is so otherworldly. But the roots of that really go back to my childhood, because I grew up Mormon. And one thing about Mormons is they believe in a living faith about angelic visitations and the spirits of the ancestors visiting and all that kind of stuff. So I've had an interest in alternative religions. Mormonism is considered a heresy of Christianity. And then I went through a lot of spiritual turmoil as an adult. I became uncertain about my path. Because I'm a travel writer as well as a business journalist, I was able to go all over the world with my wife. We went to Saudi Arabia, to Uzbekistan, Japan, South Africa. We've been kind of everywhere and talked to everybody about religion and the truth. And I also had a chance to actually spend, and I don't put this on my business resume when I pitch stories, but I had a chance to work for Fate magazine, which covers the supernatural, for a number of years, and I got to know people like Uri Geller and James Van Prague, and I had a chance to check, interview and talk about some of the issues, and I've written actually a couple of prior books on evidence for afterlife for animals. One of them, which is called The Soul of Your Pet, is actually still on Amazon after 25 years. So it sounds like a contradiction. It's just really one of those paradoxes that I'm a business journalist, and yet here I am talking about the supernatural.
Oh, wow. Well, talking about the paranormal and the supernatural, we have to, because I believe the supernatural is probably even more real than the physical world.
Absolutely. And this is the great, great paradox. I'll give you a perfect example of that. It's a very funny thing. I get a lot more hostility to my book, even though I am critical of mainstream religions for philosophical reasons. The one thing I've learned over the last 20 odd years that I've been working on some of these issues is, or 25 years, I guess, is when I really started, is that the so-called atheists are very, very much like the physicists at the end of the 19th century who said, hey, we've got it all figured out except for that ether thing. And, we know everything, the world is nuts and bolts. There's nothing mysterious about it. And of course, along came the quantum world and weird stuff. And you would think that that would induce a little humility in scientists, but I'll tell you, I opened God Reconsidered with 3 chapters to really test that idea that we really understand reality and there's no supernatural nonsense. The first one's on ESP, and an atheist like Freud said, hey, I've had telepathic experiences with my patients. It's just something natural. It's not supernatural. But that is not the way the skeptics react. They get so irrational, so hysterical, that there should be something that they have labeled paranormal. And yet the crazy thing is they're perfectly willing to jump off a cliff with a theory like Stephen Hawking's 10-string multiverse that there's no real evidence other than some mathematical stuff for it. Whereas the evidence for many of the things in the supernatural, as I try to show in my book, actually it's very well proven, but these guys just can't handle it. And the funny thing is, whenever I bring this up, in the last couple of days, I've been trying to battle them on this. There was a Facebook page called Godless and Dixie or something, and they banned me from responding to their points of view. And what they always say is, there's no such thing as ESP or fill in the blank because so-and-so professor at Harvard or Berkeley said it's not so. And I said, that sounds exactly like the people who say the Catholic bishop told me not to read those banned books, and for the life of me, I try to get them to read footnoted books about science, and they won't do it. They absolutely won't do it. And I've had some very kind of amusing interactions with these people. And again, atheist is really a misnomer. I mean, they're perfectly fine for somebody to feel that there's no logical or concrete evidence of God. And certainly people should be somewhat agnostic towards the supernatural. They should ask for evidence or at least anecdotes and experience like I relate in The Soul of Your Pet. But for people just to say it can't exist, and here's what the whole reason is for it is, there is a famous classic work back in the 60s called, it was written by Thomas Kuhn, who was a philosopher. It's called The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. And he said, something, the academic, the conventional wisdom in any field is 20 to 40 years behind the cutting edge research. And I know from having done some work in alternative medicine and in archaeology that it's absolutely true. The professors who are the gatekeepers of truth at the top of each academic profession, they're teaching what they've been teaching for 40 years, and they don't want to hear this nonsense, and they will denounce as heretics anybody who says something that doesn't conform to the orthodox belief.
A question I have is, what kind of alternative medicine do you do?
I was one of I founded back in 1974, I launched a national American newspaper called Vegetarian World, which I sold to Vegetarian Times in 1978. And I stayed on till 84. So at the same time, I had a parallel career in the nutrition field. I was managing what were the whole food stores of their times. And then I went to work for a couple of famous nutritionists in the 70s, Ann Wigmore, who popularized wheatgrass, and Dr. Pavel Irola, who was a Finnish nutritionist who had a lot of best-selling books. And I got to know many, many doctors who were pioneers in holistic medicine, alternative medicine. And it was absolutely incredible how resistant the establishment was to the most common sense things like eating whole foods rather than refined grains. You don't put sand in your car's gas tank. Don't you think there's a relationship between, getting enough vegetables and fiber and, how sick people are? Nope, won't have anything to do with it. Didn't want to. The doctors, my brother is an MD, they get one single semester course on nutrition, and they end up, with ideas like the dietitians who, design the horrible hospital food. And so I got to know a lot of the pioneers, and it was only maybe, 8 years ago, the AMA finally did some double-blind tests, and they realized that they said, acupuncture and some of these Eastern medical things, yeah, they work. I guess they knew something after 5,000 years of using them, and we can't explain it from the Western paradigm. And right now, for example, there's a new FDA-approved technology, medical technology, called Life Vessel, just like it sounds. It's one word, Life Vessel, and there's about half a dozen of them around the country. There's one in Newport Beach here in California. The biggest hospital in Seoul, Korea has one. And what it does is it's based on Eastern medicine principles and manipulating the energy lines of the body. And essentially what it does to achieve miraculous results in a lot of different areas is it resets the autonomic nervous system using a laser. And people with cancer, diabetes, Parkinson's disease, completely unrelated seemingly problems, have been finding that this works very, very well. And I could, get off on a dissertation, but when I went to popular health magazine editors to pitch this story 10 or so years ago, couldn't find any takers. I tried it recently. Even the alternative people, they think that the claims are so incredible they can't be true, but there's really thousands and thousands of people have been treated with this thing, and I'm surprised it hasn't created a medical revolution. So there's a lot of stuff going on at the cutting edge of medicine, and especially in cancer therapy, where America is particularly backwards. Other countries, Germany, for example, I lived in Germany for a while, and they were way decades ahead of Americans on alternative treatments. So, Americans live in this little ivory tower, and we think we know everything, and we are very, very backwards in many ways, and the outcomes that we get from our medical system are perfect evidence of that we don't know much.
Wow, that is something. I mean, I still think that big pharma does not want to give us the cure to cancer and all these diseases because they make a lot of money off this. What are your views on this?
Oh my Lord! we see nothing but these drug ads now that basically say, listen, you want to cure your headache, we've got a pill for it. Now, it does cause cancer and diabetes and liver disease and so forth, but, we've warned you, go talk to your doctor. Now, just to give you an idea of how stupid these things are, they've got all kinds of things for diabetes. Well, the main problem with adult onset diabetes is people are too fat. 80% of the adult onset diabetes is from people being fat. One of the causes of that is the massive amounts of sugar that we eat. I forget how much it is. It's something like an average of like 135 pounds a year or some crazy thing. And yet, when it comes to cancer treatment, back in 1944, I think it was, a scientist named Otto Warburg won the Nobel Prize for determining that sugar feeds cancer. There's just so many things that make us sick. And the ancient Chinese used to have a much better idea, which was you paid your doctor until you got sick. So, something from cultures that have been around a little longer.
I like that. You pay your doctor till you get sick. Okay. Yeah, that's funny. Moving on along here. What are your views on fallen angels and extraterrestrials?
Okay, so here's what I suggest how people should approach this. The particular path that I have chosen spiritually, which I explain at the end of my book, is called Christian Gnosticism. And the Gnostics believed, like many who have accepted the Bible, in the concept of kind of a fallen angel, but they have a completely different paradigm because they believe that the creator of this world, who was the Jehovah of the Old Testament, is an evil entity, essentially like a fallen angel or a demon. The mythology behind this gets kind of complicated, but the point is they're very similar to the Manichaeans, who were another Persian-based Gnostic religion that was founded in the 3rd century, which spread from Europe to China. It became one of the great worldwide religions. And the Manichaeans famously believed in that both divine and evil forces are in a contest. And so this is part of the Gnostic idea. So in terms of fallen angels and stuff, and how this relates to UFOs and aliens and all this stuff is this. Now, I grew up Mormons, and Mormons don't have a problem in accepting the idea of people living on other planets. I used to work for UFO magazine. I've written many articles. I've investigated many of these cases. And it seems to me that, first of all, the phenomenon is probably a mixture of maybe some genuine ET visits, certainly paranormal elements, which, as has been argued by some of the great thinkers in the field. And but what I tried to do in the book, rather than speculating, I don't believe that the aliens created us for this reason. If they're able to traverse galaxies and dimensions and so forth that greater than the speed of light and all this kind of stuff, then I don't think they would be as stupid as evolution shows they were. I mean, were the aliens sitting around for 150 million years while the dinosaurs were here, waiting for them to evolve? And then finally somebody says, something, this isn't really working out well. Why don't we just bring in an asteroid and start over? I think that there's so many dumb things about evolution, which I document in my 4th chapter. After the 3 chapters addressed to the atheists. I have one on, is there any evidence of intelligent design in evolution? And the answer is no. And that kind of lays the foundation for talking about who created the world, which is this evil spirit that the Gnostics called the demiurge. Now, I will say, though, with regard to UFOs, that this phenomenon should be taken seriously just from the standpoint of kind of the hardware evidence. There are many, many cases of something having been here, interacted with people, left evidence, so that any reasonable person who decides to look into this objectively can determine for themselves that at the very least these were mysterious cases, there are thousands of them, and they need scientific investigation. And I give 3 examples in my chapter for the skeptics where it's not just that the cases are good, it's that when you go into the skeptics' literature, like the nonsense that's been written by many of the leaders of the Committee for Scientific Investigation of the Paranormal, or what it's now called the Committee for Scientific Investigation, I think, and then the Skeptic Society and so forth. You go back and you read what they say about a case, and then you go look at the actual original story, and you find out that they leave out inconvenient facts, they misstate all kinds of things about the evidence, and they dismiss stuff with theories that actually don't work. So anybody who says that unidentified flying objects, meaning we don't know what they are, that they're not worth looking into, is in denial. And most skeptics, and just like they do on ESP or the evidence for afterlife, I mean, I am not as smart, and I don't have the academic credentials of many of these skeptics, but just because you are smart and have a degree doesn't mean that you're not closed-minded and stupid and ignorant about things. And so I try to push these 3 chapters of the evidence for UFOs in the face of skeptics, and they don't want to know about it, because it disturbs their worldview. Just like if somebody's Catholic, they don't want to hear arguments about why Catholicism may not be true, or Islam, or whatever the religion is. Well, the atheists have their own religions. They're what I call the philosophical materialists, which are the people who say, this is just a nuts and bolts world we got here. There's no paranormal.
And I'm sure for sure there's a paranormal. What do you think about alien abductions? Is there anything connected to all of this?
Well, I did quite a bit of investigations, and to be perfectly honest, I share the opinion of a Pulitzer Prize winning author that I interviewed for UFO magazine, C.D.P. Bryan, who wrote Close Encounters of the Fourth Kind. And for anybody who doesn't think that there's something to this, that this is just a bunch of nutcases, I recommend that book or anything written by David Jacobs, who is a famous professor of psychology, I believe. This is a very, very spooky area. In fact, Brian and I agreed that if you value your sanity, or you are a spiritual person, you're probably best to stay away from abductions, because you will start questioning your sanity after a while. It is an Alice in Wonderland world or universe of a hall of mirrors, and you can't totally figure out what's going on, but it is whatever it is a real phenomenon. And I would agree with David Jacobs that even though some ETs and UFOs and stuff are probably just harmless extraterrestrials, what is behind the abduction phenomenon I regard and he regards as evil. And I think David Jacobs is the greatest living authority on that subject. They are not the ascended masters coming to save us from global climate change. I think they're more likely, if not demons, they have very little interest in benevolent interest in human beings.
Yes, and David Jacobs was on our show a few months ago. Great guest. He was on our show.
Yeah,
For
really
sure.
good guy. He knows how to put together the evidence, right?
Exactly. What do you think of the work of Zachariah Stitchin?
Well, I talked to him several times, actually. I guess he's deceased now.
Yes.
Back when I was trying to figure all this stuff out, he was very interested in the archaeology of the Book of Mormon, which was something I knew about. I was a guest lecturer at UCLA on Mayan origins for a number of years. And so I sent him a book on that and on the legends of the American Indians about pre-Columbian visitors and that kind of stuff. And but on a talk show that was being conducted by UFO Magazine's editors, I asked him, I said, look, let's assume that, you're right, and the Sumerians were visited by extraterrestrials. And incidentally, I think he was a very credible scholar. He knew how to read Sumerian. He wasn't one of these, Eric von Däniken type of popularizers who doesn't know his science. And I read about 3 or 4 of his books. And in fact, when I went to Egypt in 2002, I took the one about Egypt with me, and I had a chance to talk to some high-ranking archaeologists about it. But I asked Sitchin, hey, there's just one thing here. Okay, let's say these, ET gods, if you will, came here and they wanted to use us for slave labor, blah, 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 blah. How do you explain the evidence that we have spirits? And he said, well, I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. So to go back to your first question, point, which was, maybe that paranormal world is actually the more real world,
Yep.
just as you could say that the quantum world is the more real world behind our crude perceptions here. And I think that I have a chapter, the 3rd chapter for skeptics, is on, this is all in God Reconsidered, and you can read about this at my website, godreconsidered.com. And I think that there is a lot of evidence for human beings having spirits that transcend death. What happens after that is a matter of contention, and I have my opinions, but there really is a lot of evidence, and the skeptics who easily say, oh, that's a bunch of nonsense, it's the biochemistry of death, make people hallucinate, and blah, 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 they weren't really dead, et cetera, et cetera. It's all nonsense, and I show why. So to go back to your question, anybody who's really interested in the UFO subject certainly should read Sitchin, because he's got a lot of great stuff in there. Now, I'm not a scholar in the field where I can, vouch for everything he said, but he's certainly one of the great original thinkers in alternative history.
I have a question here. Could CERN be an attempt to make a portal or gate for the Anunnaki to return to the Earth?
Well, I would have to plead ignorance. For those who don't know, Sitchin postulated these godlike aliens, the Anunnaki, and so forth. I haven't read Sitchin, and I certainly haven't talked to him in a very, very long time. So I'm not really up on it. His theories, for me, they're true as far as they go, I guess. I haven't really gone back and studied them from the standpoint of what I know about religion and how they would fit into my current point of view, which is that the Gnostic demiurge, who was basically the result of a cosmic accident, got this notion of creating the world over which he is the God, and he's unaware of other dimensions, and he's known as Jehovah in the Old Testament. And I think that in and of itself is evidence that he's not a benevolent God. But how all that, which I think is the spiritual truth, fits in with Sitchin's theories. I would have to go back and read his stuff, and I should suggest this to my friend Miguel Connor, who has his own podcast on Gnosticism and stuff. I think we should probably reach out and see if anybody's really done some research kind of on how to tie in Gnosticism with Sitchin's ideas. It's be a fascinating area.
It sure would. How can I say this? Now, you know, Islam is like one of religion that's like really like taking like a lot of place in the world. Now, how did Muhammad? How did this all happen? Did Muhammad get a vision? And if he did get a vision, was it from God, an angel, or something completely different?
Yeah, it's a great question right now. I've been to 6 Islamic majority, or at least a very large minority countries. I spent a week with the royal family and my wife in Riyadh. I've been to Egypt and spent time with the top archaeologists, and I have a great appreciation of Islamic culture and the Islamic religion. I think properly practiced, that it does help one stay spiritual, because your day is interrupted half a dozen times with the call to prayer. And I do believe that Muhammad saw a being, let's say that it was the angel Gabriel, and for the simple reason that anybody who knows how to read Arabic, and I don't, but I've talked to people who do, who aren't Muslim, and they agree that the Quran is very, very beautifully written. It would certainly have been way beyond his ability to compose, which he did initially orally. It wasn't, written down for a long time. And so I have to say that this being, Allah, is apparently a more benevolent version of Jehovah. Very similar, and of course the Muslims believe in the Old Testament and the Quran, not so much on the New Testament, but they do, regard Jesus as a saint, a mortal saint. I'm a big fan of the Sufis. We've had really transcendent experiences with the whirling dervishes. And so Islam has a lot to recommend it. And I think anybody who is familiar with the facts realizes that the likes of Islamic State and Al-Qaeda and all this, so this has absolutely nothing to do with real Islam. And even in Saudi Arabia, 20%, only 20% in the rural areas adheres to this strict, somewhat fanatical Wahhabi version of it. So if we can separate our religious and intellectual prejudices and what's happening politically with Islam right now, and just look at it from a religious standpoint, just like anybody can be a good Christian or Hindu or Buddhist or whatever, people who follow faithfully Islam have a very good spiritual path. But my reservation is and again, I treat Judaism the same way and traditional Christianity, is that the being known as Jehovah or Allah, one of the atheists, probably Christopher Hitchens, called him, said of the Old Testament Jehovah, he's the most evil creature in fiction. So, if you kind of take that tongue-in-cheek comment, boy, you go through there, and he is not a nice guy. Now, Allah doesn't dwell on genocide, and he didn't spend 40 days up on the mount with Moses dictating the priestly garment details. Meanwhile, he managed to forget to tell the Jews if there was an afterlife, which is why by the time of Christ, the Sadducees and Pharisees disagreed on this. And so I would say, unfortunately, although he is much more benevolent, I believe that the spirits come into this dimension to manipulate us for one agenda or another. For example, the Virgin Mary, to bring something into our own Western culture. You know, thousands of people, many of them atheists, saw the Virgin Mary or whoever or whatever it was appear at Fatima, so that these visions, you know, of the Virgin at Guadalupe and so forth and so on. Yeah, and you can say the same thing about Joseph Smith. He had visits allegedly from the angel Moroni, and Harold Bloom, who is a great literary scholar, wrote a book called The American Religion, where he said that Joseph Smith was one of the very few people in history who could make people see his visions of angels. So I think the general principle applies across religions, is that we know that spirits come and attempt to, you know, you could say they either want to be worshipped or maybe they want to reform a particular religion. You could say maybe Muhammad was trying to upgrade the pagan culture of the Arabs. I would argue that Joseph Smith was trying to reform Christianity with the help of the spirit world and so forth and so on. But should we take spirits at their word about their message? Well, we can't, because the Hindus also get visits from Krishna. And so you have to take this stuff a little bit with a grain of salt. But again, if somebody's happy on that path, then God bless them. They don't need to be skeptical. And, you know, you can make a path in any religion. I'm more concerned about what I set out in writing this book and in my own life over the last 20 years, trying to find out what the truth was. And I had a very, very unusual opportunity in 1990 when I interviewed the greatest parapsychologist of all time, Scott Rogo. He wrote 30 books about kind of a career overview and everything he learned. And I asked him at the end, so what's your theory about, you know, what's the true religion, what's the truth, what's the purpose of life? In 25 years of working on this stuff, I'm more confused than ever. So, yeah, there's a lot of different opinions out there about angels and aliens and spirits and religion and everything. And so I tried to sort it out for readers, and I don't use footnotes. I refer people to books to make their own decisions. But my conclusion is that you do have to be wary about these divine messengers that appear to people and claim to have the only truth.
Okay, I have a question from one of my viewers here. I wonder what he thinks about the God parts of the brain, that God is a concept that is created by the mechanics of our brain under stress or meditation.
Well, I think it's nonsense, but let me explain that. I don't, despite the title of the book, God Reconsidered, I actually don't directly address the evidence for God, because I think that's a matter of mystical experiences. And for the record, I've had a couple of mystical experiences, but I don't think you can transmit that to anybody. In my last chapters, I talk about techniques that the great mystics use, like meditation and breathing and so forth, that will give you that opportunity. Now, I'm sure many of your viewers are familiar with Carl and Jungian therapy. I went through 8 years of Jungian dream analysis, which is vastly superior to Freud's. And it has become much clearer in recent years since the discovery or the translation and publication of Carl Jung's Red Book, that he was in many ways kind of a modern Gnostic, a modern mystic. And he was the guy who gave us the concept of the archetypes, kind of a modernized version of what Plato talked about. And the idea of the collective unconscious, which I think explains synchronicities. For example, you know, when you're thinking about somebody and all of a sudden they call you, it could be ESP, it could be that meditation magnetizes that, But I think many of the things that we call synchronicities, and my life has been full of these things, I call them mini miracles, can be explained by the collective unconscious. Now, Jung had experiences with entities, with beings who claimed to be some of the ancient Gnostic truth givers. And so I do not think at all that the reason all human beings have believed in an alternate reality is because of brain. There are many, many actually surprisingly easy ways to prove that. For example, let's start with the concept of an afterlife. Can you show that the brain and brain chemistry are manifest visions? You know, when somebody's dying and, you know, they claim that the ancestors come to them and so forth. Well, as I talk about in my book, and Michael Schmicker in a book called Best Evidence, actually, the science shows that that isn't the case. When people see these entities coming to them as they're dying, they did some very, very clever tests with people who were religious and not religious, and who were being given drugs toward the end and not drugs. And you find out that you cannot explain God or the spirits and so forth because or manufactured under stress by the brain and so forth. There are some other resources in my chapters on the afterlife and some of the other topics where if people are really interested in this stuff, you know, they can delve in it further. My book is just kind of an introduction to these things. Now, I should explain something here, and that is that the Gnostic path, and a lot of people will know Gnosticism because that was kind of a rather bastardized version of it, was the foundation for the Dan Brown novels like Da Vinci Code and that sort of thing. And the Matrix movies were kind of idea of Philip Dick's fiction. But the concept that the Gnostics have is that the creator God, this demiurge, is a little spirit who pretends to be God and doesn't know about the dimensions beyond. And but there is a high God who is, we are told by the Gnostic mystics, impersonal, but we don't even know what that means exactly. Now, most of the Gnostics, and I belong to a Gnostic church in Los Angeles, are Christian, and the Gnostic philosophy can be applied to paganism and other things, but the general belief is that is somewhat similar in this concept of an impersonal God to the many, many godfathers of quantum physics, which I mention in my book. Most of them believed in a divine order, a great intelligence, a little bit similar to the deists or the Stoics, although they had a rather more benevolent viewpoint about the creator and the meaning of life and that sort of thing. The Gnostics do not attribute our world to this high God or this impersonal God. So it depends on how you define God. And I do think that many of the gods, if you want, are spirits who want to be worshipped or intervene in our affairs and promote a certain religion. You know, maybe they're Catholic saints who died and they want to promote Catholicism. The bottom line is that just because you're dead doesn't mean that you're going to know all the truth. George Anderson, who is, I think, the greatest living psychic medium, he believes in reincarnation. I'm a skeptic. But he once asked his spirits, is reincarnation true? And they said, well, we've heard about it. We don't know for sure. And so if you're dead and you don't know the truth, then I guess, you're not much smarter than you were here on Earth. There are apparently many dimensions, and I believe that you are born into the dimension that is commensurate with your consciousness. And very few people reincarnate. They might because they're attached to this world, but it has nothing to do with karma. I don't believe in karma. Karma is something that doesn't really work. It sounds logical until you analyze it, which I do in my book. But, that's a roundabout way of saying I believe God is not in our mind.
Our dreams, do you think when we dream, they're linked to other dimensions, that we actually go to other dimensions when we have dreams?
Well, let me put it this way. First of all, I have known many people, including the parapsychologist Scott Rogo, who were able to leave their bodies, do astral projection. So we don't die just because the body doesn't have the spirit in it. And some people have a natural talent at this. Some people can access the other world. I know that in some cases, I believe that people do that sometimes at night. Certainly, you can have dreams that are very providential. And as I said, Jungian psychology has a very superior dream analysis. That was my primary form of therapy for 8 years. And some dreams are dreams. And, Jung said that dreams are portentous, that they are essentially divine revelation, however you want to define that, whether it's a combination of our subconscious and what he called the archetypes of the unconscious, the universal unconscious, the collective unconscious, that, we're pulling in messages. It could be that our ancestors are speaking to us in our dreams. Most dreaming, for most people, is rather more mundane. It's kind of like our lives are, it's a third sleep, and it doesn't seem to enlighten most people. But certainly some people have that ability to go into other dimensions while they're sleeping. You can actually train yourself. There's Rogo wrote a book called Leaving the Body that teaches you techniques to do this sort of thing. I would be interested someday, if anybody did this, in doing some research where we do a systematic effort to send people into the other dimensions to come back and report on what they discovered. And I tried to talk Uri Geller and James Van Praagh into this, but couldn't get them to do it. But I have had other discussions with people. I think that when I came out with my book on animal afterlife, it was 1994. Nobody had ever written that animals had spirits in terms of all these near-death experiences that were going on. I read all the books. And so it appears to me from the hundreds of letters I got that something as simple as that, do animals have spirits, or at least the higher ones? Nobody had ever bothered looking into it. So, we are still amazingly ignorant, and I think there's a lot to be learned about other dimensions. And so anybody who has that talent of believing that or otherwise and wants to get in touch with me, they can do so through the God Reconsidered.com website. I'd be interested in discussing this.
Now, speaking about animals, do you think animals and insects actually have?
Well, I show in my book that at least the higher ones that we have interaction with, like dogs and cats and birds and horses, do. And you wouldn't think that this could be something that you could persuade a skeptic of, but the reality is that to explain people's experiences away by saying, oh, the person saw the ghost of their deceased dog because they were grieving, for example, so it was wishful thinking. The problem with that theory is most of the stories I got were not from the owners. They were, for example, from veterinarians who were dealing with animals dying, or they were the neighbors who saw a dog the neighbor's dog running around in the neighbor's backyard, and they mentioned something a few days later. Didn't you know that our dog died a week ago? You know, that sort of thing. When you break it down and look at it, and I divide up my book into the type of evidence, you find an absolutely astounding number of very credible stories from people who sometimes said they never had any other paranormal experience. There were multiple witnesses. Many of these people said, "I'm not even religious," and there were even living animals reacted to the ghost animal. So it's not just human imagination that is involved here. So we don't really know. You know, I hope on the other side that the spirits of cockroaches have not resurrected, but we don't really know much about the animals beyond the ones that are our companion animals. But for what it's worth, for the comfort that it might bring, the higher animals anyway do survive just as human beings do.
I have a question here. What does it mean when dead people visit you in your dreams? Are they contacting you?
It's a very individual thing, and I think people have to try to be objective about that. I would say it's probably 50-50. There's not anything that says that you can't dream about a loved one who's passed on, or even an ancestor. So it might just be a plain old dream. But, first of all, a lot of us don't easily recall our dreams. So the irony is that when you start to make an effort at it, they will start coming into your conscious mind. When I started my therapy, I told my analyst, he was a Jungian analyst, and I said, I don't recall that many dreams. He says, well, just start working on it. And after a while, I had so many that even going to see him 2 or 3 times a week, we couldn't even get through them. So if people want to understand their dreams, they should start making notes when they wake up at night or in the morning, because they fade very quickly, and they will start to come to you more readily, and then analyze them to see if there's a message there. Now, there's no reason in the world that those who loved you and who passed on might not try to reach you in the dream way. We don't fully understand why the spirits don't pop into this reality very often. The Gnostics would say that it's because there is a tremendous tension between good and evil, and neither the Virgin Mary show up every week, nor Uncle Bob and Aunt Mary, or evil spirits. So, for whatever reason, we don't get a lot of intervention here, but dreaming might be one of the few easy ways to this physical dimension. This may be, think of this physical world like an Ebola zone. Maybe this is very toxic for spirits, and so maybe they will use dreams to communicate with you. And also your subconscious, which is it's 1 million times more powerful than the conscious mind. So it is worth paying attention to your dreams, and maybe there's a message from a loved one there. Hard for me to say, but that's something worth people should explore.
When we die, where do you think we go? Heaven, hell, somewhere else? What's your concept on this?
Well, for people who are curious about kind of the evidence for this, I would say this. We do not reincarnate as a rule. I believe we go into a dimension appropriate for your consciousness. So if you're an enlightened, righteous person, let's say, you could go to something that maybe would be called heaven. We don't know too much about it. And if you're a lower level person, then you're going to get into a level with other people who are liars and murderers. That seems to be what the evidence is. There's no hell. I'm not exactly sure there's a conventional heaven, but from all accounts, from near-death experiences and so forth, it does seem like there is a world beyond this that is much better than this. And my argument in the afterlife chapter is all we can be sure of is that we survive death, And the seers of different traditions appear to be feeling different parts of the cosmic element because they don't really agree on what happens after that. And I would be very skeptical of claims about what happens beyond that.
Are we able to go into a different dimensions? Is there a way for us to go? Or we have to train our mind and we can only go through meditation?
Well, I do think everybody should meditate, and it doesn't matter what kind of meditation you do. I've certainly, when I've done it steadily, I magnetize synchronicities or what I call mini miracles. That I am extraordinarily, gifted in this area. My wife, who is a practitioner of Wicca, she has had interactions with the spirits that would probably kill most people out of fear. I'm not of that same kind of talent. But the good news, as I mentioned, Scott Rogo's leaving the body. Apparently, you can train people to not only do that, but one of my former friends, somebody who was a very talented psychic, grew up the police, named Bevy Jagers, she wrote a number of books on how to become a psychic, how to develop your psychic skills. And there are other things like that out there by others. So anybody can upgrade. And, it's just like being good at playing piano or tennis or, any other skill. Some people have a mind for math. And so I think that people should devote themselves to improving themselves. And, it's like any field. You will make progress, and it'll be an improvement of your innate skills. And I think that should kind of be our purpose of life, is to increase our consciousness, our enlightenment, work to becoming better people, developing all our skills, and trying to be helpful to others.
What are your thoughts on the multiverse?
I think it's very funny that the physicists are eagerly willing to embrace the 10-string multiverse of people like Stephen Hawking, for which there is only a mathematical theory, but they're horrified by the idea that there might be a paranormal dimension, which is essentially the same thing. I mean, Again, these people are 40 years behind the time. Thomas Kuhn, in The Structure of Scientific Revolution, said the only way science makes progress is the older generation, those who are the gatekeepers of the truth, die off. And so it starts out that they say something is a heresy. And then the next generation says, well, it's a point of view, it's one interpretation. And then they die off. And then that generation becomes the keepers of conventional wisdom, and they say, "Oh, well, we believe this all along," So I think that times change, and the people who are in charge of what is truth now are the ones that are the least knowledgeable about the greater reality.
Another question one of my guests has here. He says, are Wiccans agnostics?
Yeah, what the relationship is between the two?
Yes.
There's a book out for pagan Gnostics by a guy named Lash, who comes up with his own theories. I don't really agree with everything, but you can, since pagan is Wicca is very broadly defined, I would say it's a kind of shamanism. And my wife and I did a show once called Shamanistic Gnosticism. So we are both believers in the spirits. Some of them are benevolent, as the shamans would say. Some are just stupid or lost or neutral. And some of them are evil and hostile, no question about it. The Gnostics tend to emphasize the hierarchy of spirits that created this world and some of the angelic type of spirits who can protect us. The Wiccans are more like individual shamans, less concerned about the great hierarchy and more about, their relationship with their guiding spirit, essentially. So they can be compatible. It's just kind of looking at the universe from different ends of the telescope. And frankly, her opinion of most so-called Wiccans is not very high. Most of them, have this neo-pagan stuff where they think if you're dancing around in a circle, you're raising, the supernatural energy, and most of them don't really have any talent. I knew her teacher, who was quoted in a major book on modern Wicca, and he was the real thing. But people shouldn't get too hung up on labels and stuff. Everybody's got potential. Everybody has a spirit, and it's just a matter of really developing our gifts and seeking the truth, and then trying to apply it. Nobody is precluded from coming into the inner circle.
What do you think shadow people are? You must have heard about shadow creatures or shadow people. What are your thoughts on this? Because I've had interactions with them. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know much about him, to be honest. I mean, there are a lot of strange things about the supernatural that I'm not an authority on. I can only tell you that there are spirits, and how those relate to the shadow people, I can't say.
Are spirits, ghosts, and demons the same thing?
Not necessarily. Ghosts would be deceased human beings or higher animals. Demons may be entities that did not incarnate. And there are different mythologies, about the fallen angels and things like that. But however you define them, they're malevolent towards human beings. And anybody who doesn't believe in evil spirits, even if you, believe or don't believe in God, really is not familiar with the greater reality out there.
Are you familiar with David Icke's work?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of his. I'm not a big fan of kind of the people who go around and, talk about conspiracies and, alien empires and, Barack Obama is an alien and all this other stuff, all that fringe type of crap that many of these teachers use to build their own financial benefits and cult. I doubt that he even believes most of what he talks about. I've known a few of these kind of people, so I'm sorry if that offends myself, but frankly, most of the paranormal field is filled with a bunch of charlatans and exploiters and fake psychics. Sandra and I went around and interviewed lots of psychics and tested them for Fate magazine. We didn't find very many real ones.
Do you believe we live in a holographic universe?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I think that too much is made of this. When people talk about a holographic universe, a lot of times they get carried away into saying things like, there's no there. We don't have any individual existence. The opposite of what Descartes said, about, I only know the I am, I only know I'm thinking. And they get into these things where there's no time and there's no, Deepak Chopra even wrote a book on this ageless wisdom or whatever the hell it was called, where they get into this thing where they say, you can easily go backwards or forwards in time and there's no before and no after. So I would say to them, for people who think the universe is an illusion and stuff, first of all, are you asserting that the Big Bang occurred at the same time as where the universe is right now in its expansion? Are you familiar with the fact that telescopes can take pictures of the distant ends of the universe without any human intervention? So it's not a matter of, you create your reality when you look at that and stuff. I deal with these ideas in my chapter on Advaita Vedanta, which is the popular form of Hinduism in the United States. It's very much a minority. Shankara's Advaita Vedanta, which says the only reality is Brahman. The Courses in Miracles also assert similar things. There's no individuality, where it's all the God mind or that kind of thing. I don't believe that kind of stuff, and I for reasons, and nobody has to read my point of view, but if you want to understand my skepticism about these things, you'd have to read God Reconsidered.
All right. In closing, is there anything you would like to tell our audience? Also, give a shout to your website. Anything like this?
Yeah. You know, what I try to do is lay bare the long search that I think many of your listeners will relate to for the truth. I came from kind of a heretical fundamentalist Christian background, and then I went through an agnostic period and didn't know about God, and I looked into Eastern religions, and I tried to find the truth. So in God Reconsidered, there's a sample chapter all the time at GodReconsidered.com and other resources there. I tried to kind of really share with people what I learned about each religion and why I ended up choosing the Gnostic path. And I have frankly learned quite a bit from readers about afterlife, about the nature of metaphysical universe and so forth since then. So there's an ongoing dialogue in the Facebook forum there, and I welcome questions. I'm always learning. We're in the great adventure of the greater reality here, and I appreciate shows like you that allow the listeners to share their thoughts and their questions as we're all exploring this mysterious universe.
Exactly. Well, all right, Scott. I want to thank you coming on for the MnRTV Live Show. It's been a blast having you on, and it's wonderful. I love your information, and hopefully, all the answers will be answered tonight on the show.
Okay, I'm happy to come back anytime you need somebody.
Definitely, that's for sure. So thank you very much, and we'll talk very, very soon again. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Robert.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Well, wow, that was a lot of information, wasn't it? I mean, the souls, the pets, it was great.
Yeah, I'm glad that we had him on. You know?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's so many more questions that we could have done. You know, a lot more, but like because we had a glitch before, our time is constrained. But I think we got all the information, all the questions down over here.
Yeah, all the guests, I mean, all the people in the audience, they all got the question for the guest. Everything is good.
Exactly, you know. So I guess that's it for this week. Anything else you have to add?
No, I'm just glad that we were able to, you know, get the show complete, right? Because we had a little problems at the beginning, thanks to Windows 10.
Yeah, the glitch, exactly, the glitch of Windows 10, exactly. But that's known for doing that all the time, you know, every once in a while. And we'll be back. We'll be back very soon. That's for sure. Hopefully, if we don't get shut down.
No, because they're trying to shut us down. That's why we have these problems. But we'll be back sooner or later, one day, hopefully, right?
That's right. So God bless you all and see you very soon. And thanks for watching the MnRTV Live Show. And do not forget to share the show. Share it everywhere. Like that, we can get the truth out about what's going on in this world and the universe, the multiverse, and beyond. All right.
Share, like, and also comment on the video. Or on this show, I should say, because it is a video at the end, right? A long video.
Exactly. Very long. All right. Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody. Bye.